Welcome back, everybody. We made it to the 2021 season. We officially survived 2020, and there have been a few changes in the off-season. Now Pro 2 is going to be known as Prospec, and we started Prospec competition in Orlando at one of my home tracks. I grew up in Orlando, so I felt very comfortable going into this competition. Along with these new Prospec changes, we also had changes in the schedule. We were practicing Thursday, qualifying Friday, and actually competing Saturday. I was super relieved to see these schedule changes because having qualifying Thursday night after a full day of practice and having that pressure of performing after you're exhausted all day long, it was a lot to deal with. So Thursday, I was feeling great. I was very relaxed. We were able to get some great practice runs in. And in our practice, I noticed that the car was wanting to push, leaving outer zone 1, coming down the bank towards inner clip 1. I figured this might be because of our front tire change. Everybody now is running on GT radial tires. The rear grip felt really good and really consistent on these new GT radials. Normally in the front we would be running a 255 wide tire on a 9-inch wheel, and now we're running a 235. This was definitely a change to get used to. I have been running on the same tires for the last few years, so we started trying to dial that in more with lowering tire pressures, adjusting compression and rebound in the front, and we were noticing some small changes, and it was definitely making it better, but overall I was still struggling with the car a little bit. So we wanted to make the car as easy as possible to drive in qualifying, because those aren't things you want to be worrying about when you're going out there for a good score. Friday we had an hour-long practice session, and then we go right into qualifying. Now qualifying is different this year. This year you get one qualifying lap, and you want to try to get a score that's going to place you in the top 24 spots. If you're lower than that 24th spot, you do actually get a second qualifying lap. However, even if you get a higher score than, say, the current 5th place qualifier, you can only place in those bottom 8 scores. So you definitely wanted to get that first run good score and get in that top 24. Now for me, this put a lot of pressure on. I don't do well. I get very, very nervous, and I get in my head a lot. A lot of my struggles have just more so been head game struggles. So I go out for my qualifying lap after having the 2 practice laps in warm-up, and I did not do well at all. Honestly, I felt like my lap was pretty embarrassing. I felt okay about my bank run, but then coming off the bank, I started having those issues of the car feeling like it's pushing, and instead of trying to handle it and fix it and drive through it, I just got in my head and completely forgot what I was doing. I was doing random things with my hands. I was trying to get on brakes or gas, and all the wrong timing, and I just completely did horrible through the infield. I got myself together a little bit for that final outer zone, but overall, just the whole infield was terrible. I hit both clips. My angle was terrible. I was not committed. I was not on throttle through it all. And I was very disappointed in myself because this is something I've been struggling with for a long time. I tend to get in my head, and I let that ruin the event for me. Fortunately, I got really lucky, and even though I had a really bad lap, it put me in the 22nd qualifying spot. So I didn't have that pressure, and I didn't have to worry about taking a second qualifying lap. I was in the bracket. Going into Saturday, my very first battle was going to be against my friend Andy Haley. Now, Andy and I have known each other for a long time. There was a time when I crashed at Irwindale and his car wasn't working and he was out of the show, so his team actually came over and helped me fix my car. So Andy is an amazing person, and I knew he was going to be a really tough battle. Now, Andy was actually borrowing a car for this round. He normally is driving a BMW, however, this time he was driving an S14. And I was hoping that would give me a little bit of an advantage, thinking that, this is not a chassis that he's used to. So we go out for our laps. I follow first. I had a pretty good follow. I wish I could have been closer through the infield. I gave him a little bit of a gap just because I was trying to play things maybe a little bit safe and stay out of my head. I didn't want to put myself in a position where I was in panic mode. So I had fairly good proximity on the bank. I gave him a little bit of room in the infield for the transition, and then throughout the outer zone, the second outer zone, I started to catch back up to him and close that gap. My lead run was actually pretty good. I was high on the bank. My proximity to clipping points was pretty good. I felt good through the infield. It was a complete difference from my qualifying lap. So I was really happy that I was able to get out of my head and put down a good lead run. And fortunately, the judges decided that my lead and my follow were just a little bit better than Andy. So I got the win and moved on into the top 16. My top 16 battle was against Rich Whiteman. I have never driven with him before, but I had seen him driving in practice and he was looking really good, so I was a little bit nervous. I knew I wanted to be on him on the bank, so on the run-up I was trying to stay close. I may have gotten a little bit choked up on the run-up and entered maybe a little bit weird behind him, but overall I was able to stay fairly close on the bank. Until the end of the bank, I completely made a huge mistake and ended up straightening out, going off course, and trying to reinitiate. And at this point, it was already a 0, so the rest of that lap was just a practice lap. My spotter, Scotty, was on the radio saying, hey, don't waste your tires. You want to put down a good lead run. You already have a 0. So, I babied it through the rest of the course and knew I really had to put down a killer lead to even have a chance. With a 0 on my follow lap, he would have to 0 on our next run for me to even have a chance at a one more time. So I went into that knowing like, hey, I gotta throw it into that bank wall. I need to phase him. So I floored it down the straightaway, entered in the bank. I had a super high line on the bank by the wall. I was really, really proud of it. I was coming off the bank through the infield on throttle. I was good on my clips. I was a little bit wobbly, from inner clip 1 getting settled into that second outer zone, but I was able to find that nice outer line, get my tires settled right on the outside edge of that zone, and overall it was a pretty dang good lap. Rich, I don't know that he got phased, but he definitely made a mistake of his own entering the bank and was super, super low. Not quite low enough to get a 0, but very, very low. He ended up catching up to me throughout the run, and he was on my door at the very end of that second outer zone. But I was really close to having him get a 0 too. I was hoping he would get a 0 so I'd have a chance, but overall he outdrove me and he ended up getting the win. So I made a huge mistake and I ended up taking myself out, and this is one of those things that I just have to continue to learn and overcome. So overall, I am really ecstatic that I was able to work on my head game a little bit this round. The team was helping me dial in the car. We did a lot to change setup-wise, and overall, I would say it was a pretty successful first round. Next round is Jersey. It's a brand new track. Some people have driven it before. They are local to that area, but for the most part, it's going to be a pretty even playing field. So we'll see how it goes, and I will see you next time. Along with the other changes, there was also changes in the schedule. We were going to be competing Thursday. Otherwise, if you are in the top 1 through 24 spots, had to do math in my head real quick, you only get that one run. I just messed that up real bad. Let's see, that's right? 24? Yeah. Huh? Yeah. So the pressure was definitely on to, you know, crap. I do not do well. My lead one, crap. My lead one, my lead is on I feel like I need to start that all over.